Hello, I'm Holly Rader. Today we are going to be talking about resumes. When creating a resume, the first thing you need to do is, um, if it's been a few years, if you haven't done one recently, it would be a good idea to do a bit of research online and make sure that you're up to date on the latest tips and tricks and formatting, um, latest ideas for creating resumes. They're largely the same that they have been for many years, but a few things do change, just kind of trends over the years. So it's always a good idea just to look back and make sure that you're up to date on uh, the latest techniques. We are going to be talking about resumes, pulling from the interview guys at theinterviewguys.com and resumegenius.com for today. There are or three primary resume formats. These are chronological, functional, and combination. First, let's talk about chronological. This is also known as the reverse chronological resumes. It is it lists your work history beginning with the most recent and working back. Chronological resumes are great for people who have had a steady career path in the same field for a long time, um, and they're applying for jobs in similar fields that they've worked. This is also for people who have continued working, who have few, if any, gaps in their time of working, uh, their employment history. Employers like chronological resumes because it's easy to see at first glance what your work history is. If the person that belongs to the resume, if they've had experience in the same fields um, that the employer is looking, it's easy for them to see if you're a good match or at least a potential match within just the first few moments of looking at a resume. You should use, see if we can keep up here. You should use a chronological format if you want to demonstrate a vertical career progression, like building on what you already have. If you want to apply to a job in a similar field, if you don't have large work experience gaps, like we just said, you should not use chronological format if you have multiple gaps, if you are considering working in a new industry, and if you frequently change jobs. This is a sample of what a chronological resume may look like. It would start with your contact information with your first and last name, uh, email, phone number, address. You can or not use your address. That's purely optional. And if you have a personal website that you can link to, that's always a good place for that. You would have your resume introduction, where you would list the industry that you work in, the number of years experience you have, relevant skills, what position you are looking to fill, a little bit about yourself as far as diligent worker, as they've said here, looking for more responsibility, and specifying the company that you are applying with. Work or relevant experience. And this is where we talked about with the chronological. You start with the most recent, and then you would work back. So you would work with the job that you have currently, and then work on back as you go down. You would list your education, skills and certificates, and additional resume information. Anything else that seems relevant or pertinent. Could be publications, languages, volunteer experience, relevant hobbies. This might be what you might think of as extracurricular activities, other things that you're involved in that might be relevant or interesting, related in some way. The next one we want to talk about, the next format, is the functional resumes, also known as hybrid. This is for people who have gaps in their work history or they're making a significant career change. These resumes focus on target jobs and highlight related experience. When organizing your functional resume, you would want to have the categories in this order: your objective statement or summary statement, achievements and accomplishments, experience and qualifications, and education. You would use a functional resume if you have unusually large gaps in employment history, if you're in the midst of a big career change into a new industry, or you want to promote a specific skill set. You should not use functional style if you want to highlight upward career mobility, if you are a student or entry-level candidate that lacks experience, or if you lack relevant or transferable skills. And here is a sample resume for the functional format. Again, you would have your identifying information at the top, a professional summary, relevant skills, where you would put your work experience, but more listed more as skills instead of the specific jobs. And then down here would be your work experience, education. Let's see. Next up, combination resumes. Combination resumes are for a career change. They highlight well-developed skills and talents or a specialized focus. Combination resume is a blend of the chronological and the functional resume formats. They lead with a core skills section, just like the functional, and they end with detailed work experience section, like the chronological. When organizing the combination resume, you want to make sure you keep the following categories in this order: objective statement or summary, achievements, accomplishments, experience and qualifications, and education. You should use a combination resume if you want to showcase a relevant and well-developed skill set, if you want to transfer to a different industry, if you are a master at what you do. You should not use a combination resume if you have zero work experience, if you want to emphasize educational background, and if you lack the relevant qualifications and skill set for a role. And here is a sample of the combination resume. Your identifying information again, then your resume summary, relevant skills, work experience, and education. This little graphic may help if you are just trying to decide still which type of format you should focus on, or which route you should go in building your own resume. It just details a little bit further the chronological, functional, and combination. And it gives you a little chart. So what kind of job seeker are you? Entry level or experienced? Under entry level, do you have any internship or volunteer experience relevant to your target position? If yes, it's chronological. If no, do you have relevant skills for your target job? Yes, functional. No, combination. Under experienced, are you changing to a new industry? Yes. Do you have work experience that is transferable to this new industry? Yes. Then you would use chronological. If it was no, have you had an employment gap of 1.5 years? No would be chronological. Yes would be, would scoot over. Does your experience illustrate career growth and development? Yes, chronological. No. Do you have relevant skills for your target job? Yes, functional. No, combination. All right. So now hopefully you have determined which function, or not function, but which format is best suited to your needs. Let's talk about some of the specifics that you're going to include in your resume. Of course, there's always going to be an exception to the rule, but in general, when creating a resume, you're going to do write all of your content left align, all the way over to the left. You should do it neatly on one single page and on one side of that page. You want it to be easily read, quickly read. You don't want it to be so much information that the employer gets bogged down and kind of gets lost. You want them to be able to see that you have something to say. They can read it and know quickly whether or not they're more interested in learning more. There are some exceptions, as we said, to the rule. If you have over 10 years experience relative or relevant to the job that you're applying for, if you are writing a management level or executive resume, or if you're an academic writing a professional CV, it might be okay to go more than one page. These might be reasons that you would break that rule, but you would have to consider each of them, each situation. Font, choose a common, easy to read font, 10.5 to 12 size type. Some of the recommended fonts are listed here, and I have entered them in the font so you can kind of see an example of what they would look like. Arial or Arial Narrow, Verdana, Trebuchet, Century Gothic, Tahoma, Book Antiqua, Garamond, Never, Comic Sans. One of the things with the font, there are so many different ones, and a lot of people want to get really creative and try something new. But the top of your list should not be the creativity of your resume. It should be that your prospective employer can read your resume easily. You want to make sure that whether it's printed out or it's on a computer screen, it's easily read. Not every computer system uses the same software or has all of the same fonts downloaded. So if you use something that's very unique and different, it may not show up the same on their computer. And in some cases, it may not show up at all. It may just look like nonsense. And you don't want that. You want it to be very clear and easy, and you know that it's going to look like what you intended. And again, like I said, do from 10.5 to 12. You don't want it so small that they have to squint, but you don't want it so large that it takes up a lot of your space, um, because that real estate is very valuable on your page. Speaking of the real estate of your resume, set your margins. Some people say about an inch on all sides. Other sites say 0.63 by 1 inch margins. Again, that rule, that's your general rule. Depending on your space, you may be able to play with those a little bit. The resume should be single spaced with a blank line between each section of text. Let's talk about your paper for a moment. Choose a white or neutral color, possibly a gray or an off-white cream color, something that looks professional, and a professional grade paper as far as the weight. Typical copy paper is around 20 pounds. Resume grade is 24-pound weight. So you should choose a nice heavy paper for your resume, and use the 8.5 by 11 size. Finally, save your resume as a PDF. If you send it by email, you'll be sending it as a PDF. And when they open it, it's going to look exactly like how you intended. It will look as you intended, as you sent to them. Take your time to put it together, to carefully choose how you want it to look. Let your prospective employers know that you took the resume seriously so that they will take you seriously. Some common mistakes to avoid include spelling and grammar mistakes and typos. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Look over, make sure that all of your numbers are correct, your contact information especially. You would hate to go through all of the trouble and then they tried to call you and the number was wrong. So double check all of that. Check for your grammar. Check any basic errors. Have a friend proofread it. Another common mistake is not targeting your resume. This falls under making just blanket resumes. Make a stack and hand them out. While you can make that look very good and professional, prospective employers recognize if you spent time catering toward them specifically, gearing your resume toward that job instead of just toward any job. Rambling. If you kind of get carried away and um, kind of running on and on, your personal information. Sorry, I had a minor thing I had to take care of. On personal information, religious affiliation, social security numbers, personal social media, birthdays and age, marital status, anything that's specific to you other than your name and contact information is not necessary. They need to know how to contact you and what your relevant experience and skill set is. Some of any of the other is just, it's extra information that they just don't need. Salary information, save that for a personal discussion. Don't include it in your resume. And remember, along with these mistakes that we just included, and then as well as any of the formatting, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Take the time and conscientiously decide, consciously choose which information to include, which not to, how you want to build your resume to get the desired effect. Moving on. So now that we've talked about how it should look, specifically, what should you include in a resume? You're going to start with the header, which is, guess what, at the top of your resume. Make sure you include your personal information at the top. Include your full name, phone number, email. You can use the social media, professional social media link. It's not really social media, but the website, personal website link. You can include your mailing address if you want, but this is optional. A resume objective statement. An objective statement is a quick outline of your employment goals with the company you're applying to, and this should take up no more than a sentence or two. Your resume summary statement is a quick recap of your skills and experiences, and like the objective statement, should be no more than a sentence or two. Experience and qualifications. This section is where you will talk about your work history and highlight not only who you worked for, but what you did as long as how you did it, or as well as how long you did it. Be sure to include your job title as well as a bulleted list of duties and or responsibilities. This is important for them to see that as far as qualifications, what responsibilities you had at previous jobs and how that relates to the job for which you're applying. Skills and abilities. This is where you want to highlight relevant skills that relate directly to the position or job you're applying to. Make sure you list things here that set you apart and help show a potential employer that you're the perfect candidate for the job. These can include things like technical skills, language skills, computer skills, anything and everything that sets you apart and fits exactly what the employer is looking for. This is where you get to toot your horn. Education. For recent graduates and people just entering the job market, this would mean where you went to school. For people in technical fields or fields where outside training is either required or encouraged, you would include this information here. References. Once upon a time, references were always included. These days, however, references are no longer a must on resumes. It doesn't mean that you don't need them, just that you're not going to put it on your resume like we did years ago. Have them printed up as a separate list, and if requested, then you already have it. You can provide it. All right, so we looked at some of the samples earlier. From those, and then you can look online for other, let's see, I'm going to keep other templates to find some that look similar to this if you would like. You can look on any web browser for resume samples, resume templates, look up the specific, whether it's combination, functional, the different types of resumes. You can do that, but you can also go in Word and go to new, and it's like mine is not going to do it right now. But you can go to the templates in Word or in, some of your Office. You can also find it on Pages on the Mac computers. So you can look up templates there and find a resume that you like the way that it looks. Enter your information in, and that's a simple way. One thing I do want to note, though, a lot of the resume templates that I did see on Word, they have a photo or a place where you can add your own photo. And while you can do that, remember what we talked about, just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's not really recommended to include a photo of yourself on your resume. There may be some jobs where that is necessary, where you need like a headshot to go with it or something, but that would even be different. You would still include an actual headshot and not on your resume. So in most cases, that's not recommended. Remember, you want them to be hiring you on the merit of your experience, your qualifications, and a lot of the extra information is just extra. It can be overwhelming. We're in such an age with so much technology and so many options that all of that extra can just be noise sometimes. So keep it simple. Take the time to pare it down to just the information that you need. Keep it clean. It'll look, nice and neat and clean, and um, you'll turn out with a quality project, or yeah, quality project. I hope that I have been able to help you today and giving you some ideas. I'm going to try to include the chart in case you want to go back and look over that. And also, I'm going to scroll back up here for you to see real quick. The two places that I pulled quite a bit of my information from, but again, there are lots of other places on the internet, theinterviewguys.com and resumegenius.com. There's also templates for resumes on Word, on Mac or Apple, the Pages program. I wish you luck in your resume building and your job searching and your life living. Have a great day.